Hi, I'm Pam, and I'm here to talk about video games. Metroidvanias are one of my favorite genres and one that I play a lot of and review frequently on this channel. In 2024, there was a flood of new Metroidvanias that released, and I played 13 of them. Here are my thoughts on every 2024 Metroidvania I played, in order of release date, along with where I would place them on a tier list. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was developed by Ubisoft Montpellier and released in January. It was the first big Metroidvania release of the year, and for me, the best one. You play Sargon, one of the immortals who protects Persia as it's going through war, royal kidnappings, attempted coups, and time that is behaving oddly. This game feels amazing to play. Sargon is fast, fluid, and acrobatic. Jumping, air dashing, and flinging yourself between spikes during increasingly difficult platforming challenges is immensely satisfying. Combat using dual swords is exciting and intense. This is one of the very few games that made me actually like parrying, as every counterattack is visually stunning and tactilely rewarding. The time powers you learn that let you progress through the huge, interconnected map are clever, thematically appropriate, and at times delightfully surprising. Each has multiple uses, not just for exploration and movement, but also combat, and are used in very interesting ways in boss fights especially. This is a gorgeous, vibrant game with exciting animations, great music, and a map that is a joy to fully explore. The Lost Crown is an amazing experience that combines features from the best games in the genre in a deft and cohesive way, and it's become one of my favorite games. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is definitely S tier. The Moebius Machine was developed by Madruga Works and released in March. You play an astronaut who receives a distress call from a hostile alien world. There's a big focus on exploration here. The map is expansive and full of shortcuts and ways to use the environment to your advantage. Ranged combat starts you off with a decent gun, then offers different iterations and power-ups. Much of the challenge here is in dealing with different types of terrain, all of which is quite hostile to you, and many of the new abilities you get are terrain-specific. The visuals and animations are competent, though the environments and enemies you face do get a bit samey after a while. Still, the different biomes all introduce something new mechanically, and the water level here is one I really enjoyed, which was unexpected. I do have some minor complaints. I wish there were more boss fights, there are minimal map markers available, and you drop your currency when you die. Though on the bright side, those drops will stay on the map until you pick them back up again. The Moebius Machine is a good Metroidvania that I recommend if you want to explore a dangerous alien world. It's a solid B. Minishoot Adventures was developed by Soul Games Studio and released in April. It is a twin-stick shooter that combines an open overworld, interconnected dungeons, and bullet-hell boss fights in a delightful take on the genre. This game is really charming. I love how your ship spins and chirps when it discovers something new. The graphics are simple but effective with a bold color palette. Most importantly, it just feels really good to play. This game had me hooked, and I wanted to uncover every secret on the map before taking on the final boss. The bosses are challenging and fun, and each has multiple stages to master. It's also very non-linear. I ended up beating most of the bosses before even getting a number of the new abilities that would have made things much easier on myself. It always seemed like there was something new to discover on the map, some new dungeon to find, a hidden vendor, upgrades to get in the hub town. Minishoot Adventures was a really enjoyable game that at once felt like it was doing something new with the genre, while at the same time felt incredibly familiar and cozy. This one gets an A from me. Tales of Kenzera was developed by Surgent Studios and released in April. It tells the story of a young shaman who has lost his father and makes a deal with the god of death to get him back. This game makes a really good first impression as it is gorgeous, and movement is fun right from the start as it lets you double jump, air dash, and wall jump immediately. Platforming is responsive, and combat does a good job of making you switch between two masks, which are kind of like stances, that give you different abilities and strengths. As you progress, new abilities make the most of the mask switching and platforming too. The story is touching, and the voice acting is fantastic. I really like the boss fights and how narratively significant they are. Where the game falls down is in exploration. The world, though beautiful, is very linear, rarely requiring any backtracking or learning of each area. There are side areas that contain platforming challenges, though I never found them that rewarding. Tales of Kenzera is a good action platformer, but it lacks the exploration I look for in a Metroidvania. For this reason, it's gonna get a C. It would rank higher if I was just ranking it as a game. Animal Well was developed by Billy Basso and released in May. You play a blob exploring an underground labyrinth that is filled with animals. It doesn't tell you much about what's going on in terms of a story. This is one of the most creative Metroidvanias I've ever played, and it's definitely the most intellectually rewarding. Rather than double jumps and new weapons, the abilities you all get here are completely unexpected. Firecrackers, frisbees, spinning tops, and bubble wands. The game gives you very little direction, so you really need to think outside the box to solve its puzzles. It made me feel very clever when I figured out secondary and even tertiary uses for items that got me past a seemingly impossible challenge. The whole thing has an air of mystery, and it was really fun to unfold it. There's no combat here, just all kinds of puzzles and platforming to solve. The Animal Well rabbit hole goes much deeper than just rolling credits for the first time, though I was satisfied to leave it there. This is a great game if you want a Metroidvania that's doing something different, and I give it an A. Pampas Selene, The Maze of Demons was developed by Unepic Fran and released in May. This is an 8-bit retro-style dungeon dive that you can play alone or with a friend online. You take on the role of a warrior and a mage, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, as you explore a dungeon, do quests for gods, and gain an almost overwhelming number of new abilities. I've been playing this co-op and I was a big fan, especially at the beginning. I particularly like how you and your partner can split up and do your own thing, as well as teleport to each other at any time. Exploring this dungeon is a lot of fun, but can also be quite frustrating at times. This is a game that sticks to the retro hard difficulty. There are a lot of traps to deal with, and healing items are very sparse. As the game went on, it started feeling like co-op was a bit of an afterthought, as one character would end up useless or even a hindrance in certain situations or boss fights. I'm about 3/4 of the way through Pampas Selene, and though I have enjoyed it, especially at the beginning, it's also getting to be more frustrating than fun at this point. I'm gonna give it a B for now, though. Nine Souls was developed by Red Candle Games and released in May. This is a difficult, combat, and story-heavy game that asks you to get good at parrying. I saw all the rave reviews when this game came out, but billing itself as a Sekiro-like really didn't appeal to me. I wasn't planning on playing it at all, but then it came to Game Pass, so I thought I'd give it a shot. The art is gorgeous, the introduction and quickly revealed twist is impactful, but I really don't like playing it. I don't like that parrying doesn't give you a moment of invulnerability, so I often felt punished even when I did pull it off if there was more than one enemy on screen. Succeeding at parrying never really felt rewarding. The only reward was not dying and getting to continue chipping away at a health bar. Save points are far away, you drop both your currency and experience when you die, and there is so much dialogue. I put in a few hours, but everything about Nine Souls puts it squarely in the not for me category, and if I have to rank it, I'm gonna give it a C. Gestalt, Steam and Cinder was developed by Metamorphosis Games and released in July. In this steampunk game, you play Alethea, a mercenary who is about to be pulled into a much bigger conflict. I really like how this game combines ranged and melee combat. Having melee hits give you more energy for ranged shots to take, and introduces abilities that really make sense in the world. There is a lot of story in this game, and at times I did find the amount of dialogue annoying and like it got in the way of me playing the game. Gestalt is on the more linear side, though there are plenty of things to find in the world, including side quests and collectibles. Overall, I like how the game plays. The movement and combat are very smooth, the upgrade system is solid, and the different biomes are fun to explore. It's also very beautiful. The pixel art and the animations are a real standout. Gestalt is short and sweet and not overly challenging. I wouldn't call it a great game, but it is a good one. I give it a solid B. Bo Path of the Teal Lotus was developed by Squid Shock Studios and released in July. It is a hand-drawn game inspired by Japanese folklore, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's also a game I bounced off quite quickly, or should I say, pogoed off. The game has a big focus on platforming, staying aerial, and pogoing to get anywhere. I love a challenging platforming section in a Metroidvania, but I found that having to carefully time my pogos to reset my jumps to get through every single screen was very tedious. It just didn't feel very good to play. Bo is another game that goes in the not for me category, though maybe I'll go back to it later and find that the pogoing isn't that bad after all, like I did with DuckTales. I'm actually not going to rank this one as I don't think I spent enough time with it to really get a handle on how good it was. BioGun was developed by Dapper Dog Digital and released in July. In this run-and-gun platformer, you play a vaccine, fighting through the insides of a dog, attempting to defeat a virus that is threatening pets everywhere. BioGun is a ton of fun. It's bright and colorful, the music is upbeat, and it really commits to the theme with tons of dog puns and charming animations. You explore the various organ systems in a very non-linear way. The map is large, detailed, and filled to the brim with things to discover. It's fast and fun to get around, and fast travel opens up early. Ranged combat is great. You have a variety of different weapons and upgrades to choose from to tailor combat to your own playstyle or to the weaknesses of each of the excellent and challenging bosses. You can scan various enemies and other things you find, and meet other cells in the body who will be able to help you or ask you to help them. The game controls very smoothly, and new mechanics and obstacles are introduced in each area. I had a fantastic time with BioGun. I'd say it provides more of a combat challenge than a platforming challenge, but it also really scratches the exploration itch. I give BioGun an A. Mars 2120 was developed by Qbyte Interactive and released at the end of July. It clearly takes inspiration from Metroid Dread and has you exploring Mars. Who are you? Why are you here? Well, the game never really told me. To call this game rough around the edges would be an understatement. It is very janky. Enemies either charge right into you or stand still while you shoot at them for an overly long time because they're too spongy. I frequently had trouble targeting things with my ranged attack, but also found the melee collision unpredictable, or just watched enemies fall through the floor. Though character movement feels alright, the levels are mostly made up of tight corridors where you can't even double jump without hitting the ceiling. Boss fights are tedious and seem to have only one correct way to beat them. Through the game's opening hours, I was showered with XP but had almost nothing to use it on, and there's no way to rebind controls or mark the map. I found very little to like about Mars 2120 and ended up giving up on it in the middle of a particularly tedious boss fight. This one is a D. Aestik was developed by Hooded Traveler Games and released in August. It's a familiar-looking hand-drawn action platformer. You explore a hostile realm while making moral decisions about how to deal with its corrupted inhabitants. I don't have anything particularly negative to say about Aestik, but it didn't really hold my attention. Movement feels alright, combat is decent, I do like the visual style. The moral decisions are the one thing that makes the game a bit different from others in the genre, but I wasn't all that interested in the story. And I tended to just hit anything hostile in front of me without thinking about moral repercussions. The level design is not my favorite. There are often random singular spikes sticking out of floors and walls that feel like more of an annoyance than a platforming challenge. There was little direction in where to go, and I ended up doing a lot of backtracking that was more frustrating than fun exploration. I played Aestik for a few hours, past the halfway point, then decided that my time could be better spent elsewhere. It's not a bad game, it's just... So I give it a C. Crypt Custodian was developed by Kyle Thompson and released in August. This is a top-down game where you play a recently deceased kitty, tasked with cleaning up the afterlife. At first I was a little wary of the top-down perspective, but it didn't take long at all for it to win me over. A lot of care was taken in making the player feel in control and aware of exactly where they stand in this 3D environment. I never found myself falling off ledges by accident. Platforming felt just as good here as it does in my favorite 2D games. Controls are smooth and intuitive, and combat is a lot of fun. Though this isn't an overly long game, the map feels incredibly expansive and lets you choose from multiple different directions to explore. There are tons of secrets and upgrades to find, through thorough exploration or solving optional puzzle and challenge rooms. Combat is also very satisfying, especially the adorable yet dangerous boss fights, and I like the variety of special abilities you can choose from. Everything about Crypt Custodian is delightful, and I even liked reading the dialogue, which was very amusing. I really have nothing to criticize about Crypt Custodian. It thoroughly charmed me, and it was hard to put down once I started playing. This one gets an A. From my point of view, 2024 was a banger of a year for the Metroidvania genre. Last year I made a video like this, and of the 9 games, I only really liked 3 of them. Here, out of the 13 games I played, I really enjoyed the vast majority of them. I'm looking forward to playing more Metroidvanias next year, as well as catching up on any notable ones I missed. One thing I do want to mention is The Last Faith, which came out closer to the end of 2023 and then kind of got missed in coverage because I didn't play it till this year, but that was also a really excellent game, like A, maybe even S tier. I found it impossible to put that one down. It had the sort of feel of Blasphemous, but much more active and fast and quick and agile in terms of movement, and very Souls-like in terms of the RPG elements and being able to choose what weapons you wanted to use. That's a high recommend for me that I feel like has gotten a little forgotten about in terms of my official Metroidvania videos. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Metroidvanias of the year are, or what you're looking forward to playing in the future. If you want to see more, check out my playlist of Metroidvania reviews. I do have full reviews of a number of the games that I talked about today. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.